Our friends from across the pond have weighed in on this year's awards season, and I've got the results from the BAFTAs right now. Hello everybody, I'm Dan Murrell here with the results from this year's BAFTA Awards. They happened earlier today over in the UK, but they're not like the Oscars. They don't air live on television. It's cut down for TV and then aired a bit later. It's the reason that I subscribe to BritBox once a year. Now, the BAFTAs are a bit like the Golden Globes in that they're not necessarily a predictor for the Academy Awards because the voting base isn't the same. There's not a whole lot of overlap between BAFTA and the Academy, but they can be a bit useful to see which way the wind is blowing. How are people thinking about the race overall, even if it's not the same specific voters? In general, though, I just like to say that I always enjoy watching the BAFTA ceremony because it is shorter than the Oscars, and also because they do things that I've long been advocating for the Academy Awards, like showing clips of every movie in every category. They always do the in memoriam segment very well. Jeff Goldblum this year played a really nice rendition of As Time Goes By on the piano while they showed the pictures full screen of the people that passed away, had clips for them as well. So I know that there are some different things like presenting categories off air that have been a little bit more controversial here in the US. But generally, I think that the BAFTAs are a well-run ceremony, and it did culminate with Conclave's big win for Best Film. Now, it's not a huge surprise here because it led in overall nominations. It's also considered a British film at the BAFTAs due to its British production team. But what I think that this does is to keep the Best Picture race a little bit more wide open. If Anora had run to a win here at the BAFTAs, I think the idea could be that maybe it was cinching up the Best Picture win. But with Conclave's win here, I think that a lot of eyes are now going to be even more closely trained on the SAG Awards next week and what movie's going to win that Best Ensemble Award, who's going to win the Individual Acting Awards. Because should Anora or Conclave win that award, I think the momentum could shift a bit to that movie or the other one. I still think that Anora is a narrow frontrunner for Best Picture, but should Conclave also do really well at the Screen Actors Guild, then I think that we could go into Oscar Sunday with really a wide open race with no clear frontrunner. Conclave also picked up awards for Best British Film as well as Best Editing and Best Adapted Screenplay. I think it's close to a lock in that category. It was up against all 5 of the other Oscar nominees. There were 2 awards that I think were somewhat surprising in the night. It was a lot of frontrunners or movies that were already in the mix winning, but the winner for Best Original Screenplay was A Real Pain. I didn't really guess that Jesse Eisenberg would win the award for that film. Kind of an interesting wrinkle in the Oscar race. It was up against 3 other Oscar nominees. September 5 was not in this category. Anora, as in Best Picture, I think is still the front runner for this at the Oscars, but it is interesting that A Real Pain won here, and I think it might indicate that the race is close, maybe a little bit closer than many people think. The other big surprise, I'd say the biggest surprise of the night, was Mikey Madison's win for Best Actress. This is a big win for her because Demi Moore was considered to be the front runner and has really been on a tear lately. She was up against the other nominees in her category, minus Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here, who I still think is a wild card in the Oscar race for Best Actress. But the thing that I thought was most interesting about Mikey Madison winning here is that Anora did not overperform at this ceremony. It won one other award the entire night, which was for Best Casting. So it's not like she got caught up in this sweep for Anora. BAFTA really liked her performance. And so much like when I was talking about Conclave winning Best Film, I think now the eyes of the industry and everybody else are really going to be trained on the SAG Award for Best Actress next week. Because should Mikey Madison win the award for Best Actress at SAG, then I think that what seemed like almost a sure thing for Demi Moore gets blown wide open on Oscar night, especially when you add Fernanda Torres into the mix. Should Demi Moore win the SAG Award next week, then I think I would be much more confident in making my pick for her to win Best Actress. So there are still a lot of things that are up in the air, even in races that seem to have been close to sewn up prior to now. Adrien Brody won the award for Best Actor. He seems pretty unstoppable at this point. I think a SAG loss right now would be the only thing that could complicate things. Kieran Culkin, as expected, won Best Supporting Actor. He is as sure a thing as you can possibly get. He was not in attendance. He was with an ill family member. I liked Jesse Eisenberg's quip when he accepted the award on his behalf.
He is one of these lovely people who's brilliantly talented, but who, for some random luck of the cosmos, has his priorities in order.
There have been questions about about Emilia Perez and whether that's going to affect Zoe Saldana's chance at Best Supporting Actress, but it certainly didn't at the BAFTAs because she did win the award for Best Supporting Actress. It's looking less and less likely that she's going to go down with the Emilia Perez ship on this one. We'll see what happens at SAG next week. That could be the clinching thing. This was another big cry speech for Zoe Saldana. I have to admit, I was somewhat charmed by it at the Golden Globes, but at this point, it's getting a little, I don't know. It's just like, okay, yeah, I'm happy for you, but come on. Brady Corbet won the BAFTA for Best Director. I think that prevents things from looking like a runaway for Sean Baker and Honora. 3 other Oscar nominees were in that category, minus James Mangold. The Brutalist was the co-winner for the night for most awards. It also won Original Score and Cinematography. And then there were a few different films that won 2 BAFTA awards. One of them was Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul, which won the first ever BAFTA for Children's and Family Film. It also won the BAFTA for Best Animated Film. Let's be honest here, Wallace and Gromit are practically British institutions, so it's not really a surprise to me that they won both of these awards at BAFTA against The Wild Robot. I don't really see this as a momentum change at all when I'm looking at the Oscar race for Best Animated Feature. I think this is just the fact that the Brits love Wallace and Gromit, and to be fair, I thought that it was a really, really good movie. I enjoyed Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul. Dune Part 2 picked up 2 awards. It won for Best Visual Effects against 3 of the other nominees in its category at the Oscars. Gladiator 2 is nominated for BAFTA. Alien Romulus is nominated for the Academy Award. Dune Part 2 also won Best Sound, but it did not win in any other categories. Also winning 2 technical awards was Wicked. Wicked won for Best Costume Design and Best Production Design. And Emilia Perez was one of the films that won 2 BAFTA awards. Of course, the win for Zoe Saldana. And it also did win the award for Best Film Not in the English Language. The controversy had no effect on this race at BAFTA. I'm still not convinced that Emilia Perez is even the frontrunner for Best International Feature at the Academy Awards. I think that it is locked in with I'm Still Here. And when I look at my picks, I'm still not really sure who my choice is going to be when I select who I think is going to win the Academy Award. So while this is an indication, maybe a stronger indication that Emilia Perez may still be in the running for the Oscar, I am not yet ready to say that this has a meaningful impact on the race. The Substances only win of the night came in the makeup and hair category. It's looking more and more like it's heading for an Academy Award win. And then there were several other categories presented at the ceremony that did not have an impact or will not have an impact on the Oscar race, but that I think are interesting to note. First of all, Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, won for Best Documentary. I'm still shocked that it was not nominated for the Academy Award, so no real impact there. The award for the best debut by a British writer, director, or producer went to Kneecap, which I thought was a really good movie. It was shown at Sundance over a year ago, and I was glad to see it pick up the BAFTA because it is a very personal story about this Irish band. If you haven't seen Kneecap, I highly recommend it. The Rising Star Award, which was chosen by the public, went to David Johnson, who had a standout role in Alien Romulus. He was able to beat out Mikey Madison for that award. BAFTA also gave away their BAFTA Fellowship, basically their highest honor, to Warwick Davis. It was presented by Tom Felton, and Warwick Davis is such a delight to watch on screen, in real life. I think he gave a really funny, charming, witty acceptance speech, and also a very emotional one because he lost his wife just last year.
Thank you for showing me that life can still have meaning and for helping me to laugh and to love again.
So looking at the overall picture, as I mentioned, Conclave and The Brutalist led all movies with 4 wins each. And then we had A Real Pain, Honora, Wicked, Dune Part 2, Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul, and Emilia Perez with 2 awards each. Emilia Perez had 11 nominations, just one behind the leader, Conclave, but only walked away with 2. A Complete Unknown walked away completely empty-handed. A lot of times BAFTA winners can help us give clarity on who the winners are going to be. This year, I think it really just gives more clarity on the race itself. I don't think it helped me decide who was going to win any category more than I did going in. But what I think that it underscored is what we've been talking about from the beginning, which is that this race is just so wide open. And again, had Honora won more, then I think that it would tell us more about where things might be swinging. But that big swing I think we saw last weekend with Honora winning a Critics' Choice as well as the Directors and the Producers Guild, this does seem to arrest that momentum slightly. However, Should it pick up some awards at SAG, even some unexpected awards next weekend, then I think that momentum could carry it all the way through to Best Picture. There was also another major awards ceremony this weekend, and that was the Writers Guild Awards ceremony. I think that it is consequential to the Oscars, but it has a bit of a muted impact because of the rules of the WGA. If a screenplay is not written by a WGA member or isn't written under a WGA contract, then it's not eligible to be nominated at the awards ceremony. And we saw that this year, where we had some winners that are Oscar contenders, but there were other major Oscar contenders that were notably absent from those categories. The WGA Award for Best Original Screenplay went to Anora, which is a mark in its favor, although you have to keep in mind that The Substance, September 5, and The Brutalist, which are all Oscar nominated, weren't nominated at the WGA. The only other Oscar nominee at WGA was A Real Pain. So this may speak to Anora's relative strength over A Real Pain. We just saw A Real Pain win at BAFTA, but without those other movies in the mix, it's hard to tell just how significant that win is. Still, it is good for Anora. By the way, and I think I started this stat last week, there's now only one movie that's won the Critics' Choice Award for Best Picture, as well as one at the Directors Guild, the Producers Guild, and now won a Writers Guild Award that did not go on to win Best Picture, and that's Brokeback Mountain. So if Anora were to not win Best Picture, it would now join a club of two alongside Brokeback Mountain as the film that won all of those other awards but weren't able to take home the Oscar top prize. The Writers Guild Award for Best Adapted Screenplay went to Nickel Boys, and it's great to see that film win. Conclave, which I think is almost a lock to win the Oscar, was not nominated at the WGA, nor was Emilia Perez or Sing Sing. Those three films are also nominated for the Oscar. The only other Oscar nominee that was in that category is a complete unknown, so I wouldn't really say that this says a whole lot for Nickel Boys' chances in the Academy Awards race, only because the odds-on favorite wasn't even one of the nominees. Much like the BAFTAs, the documentary award doesn't really give us any insight to the Oscars. The award for Best Documentary Screenplay went to Jim Henson, Idea Man. There were actually no Oscar nominations in that category, possibly due to the WGA eligibility rules. So it was a big win for Conclave at the BAFTAs, a big win for Mikey Madison at the BAFTAs, and a win for Anora at the WGA Awards. What do you think? What do you think this says about the state of the race? What are you looking forward to as we go into the last weekend before the Oscars and the SAG Awards, which are happening in a week? Let me know down in the comments below, and be sure to stay tuned right here to the channel. I'm going to be breaking down the box office of Captain America: Brave New World, as well as even more movie news, reviews, and everything you come to this channel for. Thank you so much for tuning into this BAFTAs recap. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.